Okay. Hello, guys. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining this talk. So, esports and blockchain are two of the fastest growing industries today. And the symbiosis between these two can benefit absolutely both the industries. So the purpose of this talk is to answer three main questions. What are the issues with the esports landscape? Number two, how can the blockchain solve these issues? And number three, can we make a living out of a blockchain game? So about me, I've been working several years in the blockchain industry. I work now for Monolith, while on top I founded an esports company, which is basically an asynchronous coaching platforms for gamers. So a little context, esport is the competitive side of video gaming. So are those titles which basically last 30 to 60 minutes, and you win or lose based on if you reach some kind of goals. So the market size is huge. So it's basically double the size than music and film industry combined. That's for the gaming, while for esports, we are going to reach 2 billion in revenue, and that's just for basically tickets and for watching tournaments. So that's actually pretty impressive. So blockchain and esports, they share one thing, which is the massive global audience. So blockchain targets basically every human in need for financial services, even those ones that don't have a bank account. While the gaming population is now 2 billion, and we will reach 2.5 billion in a couple of years, as well as a massive increase in the revenue. While concerning titles, there are just few of them which are being massively played. So these numbers are for monthly users active. So we don't have like those numbers on blockchain games yet, but we have some other good numbers, like Axie Infinity show that there are actually million being traded. I think the monthly cap for this month was $300 million in assets traded, so that's actually impressive. In terms of user, we can get there. So back to the problems. To understand the problems, we need to speak about the panorama. So it's an entertainment business, and then it's built around an audience. Then there are four core elements. Pro players, which plays in pro teams that can be, well, mostly are private, but can be also public. Then there are tournament organizers. And then there is not just the company who develops the game, but the game developers, which are actually the most important entity of them all, because they have like a lot of power. And then, yeah, you have like second layer of the infrastructure. So you have from the cables to the hardware, to the keyboards, whatever, like to the software. And then there are third grade stakeholders like the sponsors, investors, the press. But yeah, so the issue is mostly in the centralization. And it's not just centralization, but it's hyper-centralization. Like you don't find this model in traditional sports. For example, if you speak about football, there are many entities. There is FIFA, then UEFA in Europe, different organizations in many continents. So to change the rules is actually very difficult, and it's a slow process. While here, basically, the developer just decide for everyone. In terms of control and ownership of assets, basically, a game developer can decide to ban you from the game, and if you bought, I don't know, maybe some cards on a card game, you lose the access to your assets. So those are not really yours. And then, yeah, well, transparency issues on many layers, specifically on funds being collected crowdfunded by these games. So one positive thing about the hyper-centralization is actually that Ethereum is born from it. So Vitalik was playing World of Warcraft, this famous Morpg, and one day, basically, his main character got nerfed. And when you are a teen and you are investing so much time into a game, like a change like this can be like dramatic. He wrote himself, he cried himself to sleep. And then it's here they understood that decentralization is really bad, and this was like a foundation for the creation of Ethereum. So a couple of real examples. We have Steam, which is this global market of thousands of games, and they created a market for assets. So it's a primary market, but the thing is that you just can trade using them. So what if they decide to add a restriction? And they did. So there were people speculating on objects that were worth thousands of dollars, and one day, just simply, you can't trade it anymore. So this is real bad. Patch update is another example. So I put League of Legends, but mostly all competitive games suffer from problems with patch updates. So let's say a team in a competition with a prize pool of millions the developer decides to change the rules, decides to favor one team over the other. It's basically like cheating, and no one can stop them because the game is there. No one can do anything about it. And another example is the funds being collected. So Dota 2 has the biggest prize pool ever in esports industry. It was like 40 million for the International 2020. It mostly crowdfunded. I donated myself. But in 2020, the International didn't happen because there was COVID. And so no one knew for months where those funds were. So there is no transparency, and this is like a real big issue. While there are other secondary issues like global payments, for example, I don't know, the team is spread across the world, so using traditional banks may be problematic sometimes, as well as having a startup with many, I don't know, employees, so you have to pay all of them. Lack of coordination. The literature describes the esports panorama as a Wild West, so no one basically speaks to each other. There was this famous case of CSGO players that decided to stop attending tournaments because the schedule was too hard to sustain. And then there is not so much open source, even if when those major companies basically decided to do an open source operation, there were a lot of benefit. Like many games are born from the open source. Like CS:GO is a patch of Half-Life. Dota is a patch is an edit map from Warcraft. So the question number 2 is how can the blockchain help? So for sure in decentralization, it doesn't need to be a fully decentralized. They can decide to switch to a partially decentralized model. Ownership of assets is evident, like if I play a card game and I invest money in the game, I don't want those money to be lost one day just because someone decides for it. So in a blockchain game, if you have the cards and the game stops to be supported, you basically can still trade those cards on the secondary market, or you can build your own game. So full of possibility. One other point I like is the community-driven forks. So let's say there is a patch update that radically changes your game. You can basically decide to switch. So the game can divide, so you can still play the old version of it. Concerning the landscape, yeah, mostly everything is happening on Ethereum. I mean, it's not like DeFi, the percentage is 45%, so there are other blockchains involved. And to be fair, you can find games using up to 4 or 5 blockchains together. So they use Ethereum for trading ERCs, but they use for other transactions, other layer 2 solution, for example. So the Ethereum gaming landscape is pretty big. I counted more than 130 games, but that's just for the play to earn scenario. So this brings us to the last question. So can we make a living by playing a blockchain game? So I've analyzed the case of Gods Unchained. This is a game where you basically play cards, and you can have cards as an NFT. So these are some data from this YouTuber here, Copper Pitch. So he played the games for several months. I collected just the last 3. And he basically was able to earn $1,000. And the way this cost is calculated is by the price of the packages divided by 2, because you need 2 cards to fuse them and to make an NFT. Only if you have an NFT, of course, you can trade it. So the week rate may not seem so high. He was playing in the highest tier, and with an average of 17 wins, which is not really so difficult to achieve. It's not like a professional player. He's not like a crazily good player. And the hourly rate is $1.5 per hour, but easily you can use like $2 per hour. So you may think the answer, can we make a living? It's no. It's okay. It's just an hobby, and I can earn some money from my hobby, which is not bad. I wish it was like this when I was playing. But the reality is, in some countries, the hourly rate is very low. Like there are some countries with $0.5 per hour, and imagine what kinds of work. Like they may be dangerous work. You may get injured. While if you can technically play this game, you can live like a king in a country like that. So I think the point is that with this play to earn modern, we are really close, like, to a financial revolution. With Axie Infinity was in the first page of the Singapore newspaper, and basically engineers were quitting their job for playing that game because they were making more money. So I really look forward to see where the gaming landscape in the esports industry is going. Thanks. So I don't know, guys, if you have like some question, we can have an open discussion. Thank you. Anyone with the mic? Thanks.
So you mentioned lots of blockchain startups, but I have a question. What's happening at large gaming companies? Because gaming industry also has this like giant companies with like billion-dollar budgets. It seems like they should be interested just to tokenize some of their existing assets, but I personally never heard of any like a huge like gaming company going into blockchain. So what's happening for those guys?
Well, that's true. I mean, from the major esports title, I personally don't know about not a single one having gone into the blockchain, but simply because at the moment they don't need it. They are making a lot of money. They are having a big community. When you have 200 million players active per month, you don't have really so much problems. While what I think will happen in the future is there are some startups, some companies will develop their game based on using lots of aspects on the blockchain, and some people may migrate there because they see, oh wait, I can actually live by playing this. So the average person, the average hard gamer puts more than 10,000 hours in a game. So imagine if you were earning $2, $3, $4 per hour. It's actually a lot of money in your like teenage. It's not bad. I will migrate there. Okay, no more questions, I guess. Thank you. Thanks, guys.